Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snicked, back with another Royal Revolt 2 Elite Raids base review. This will be a little bit of a shorter review. I'm going to go ahead and do the raid first. We're going to be raiding Mischreiber1967. A constant presence in the top 10, occasionally drops out of it for one purpose or another, but is definitely one of the most veteran players in the game, and along with Master E, I would say is probably the player that is most consistently in the top 10 ever since I can remember starting to play the game. So let's go ahead and go into a raid here. This is actually, they just reverted back to this design that you see in front of you. It's a design that they actually had for a long time, and this is an individual that changes their base design maybe once every day, rarely keeping their design for more than a couple of days at a time, which sometimes works to their detriment because the last design that they actually had, for example, was really good and was really effective. Probably one of the most effective base designs I've ever seen in the game. But for whatever reason, they decided to dispense with that and go with a new base design, and actually just reverted back to an old base design in this case. So, which I actually find to be substantially easier. So, cool thing about this layout that they have, and I'm not entirely sure why it even happens, but it does allow you to build up a pretty substantial army. So we'll see just how substantial we're talking here at the end of the raid, but as you can see here, so far so good. I think get this skull tower down as quickly as we can because it's never any good. Love how my mortar just buzzes right by those towers. But the pyromancers are really good about sticking around to take care of, so that is okay. Just hang out here for a few. Here, buzz this guy down. Okay, so I'm going to use this Sonic Blast here. Afford me a little bit of time to come back down here and hit these guys. Especially soften this guy up a little bit. May not get a full... It's going to be cutting it pretty close. May not get a full raid this time, or a full victory. Yeah, so just raid. That one tower there wasn't quite brought down fast enough, and my troops didn't come up quite as fast as I expected them to. So it still went pretty well though, 98%. Having a little better luck this evening with the Chamber of Fortune as well. It's all pretty random. I have no idea, no rhyme or reason as to what chests I choose. It seems like the upper right is usually pretty good, but occasionally that doesn't seem to work out either. Anyway, so we'll go back in and give it one more shot. It looks like that just dropped them out of the top 10 down to number 11. Not getting a whole lot of loot, 131, so we'll go back in here, use our Facebook food invites while we still got them. And this is basically the routine that I would go through to do the one gym trick when it still existed, so old habits die hard, I guess. So 4 of these with 131 gets me up to 666. Bad number, I know. Then my farms are basically all set at level 9, and I've had them that way forever. I haven't upgraded them. I'm going to go ahead and start doing that again. But 131 is what I would get down to after 3 raids, plus 4 Facebook food invites would get me to 796, which put me in easy distance of just spending 1 gem for the one gym trick. So you can see, even though my food isn't as much as it could be coming out of the farms, that was an optimal setup for the one gym trick at the time. But it looks like that's that's behind us there. So if we go back in, you can actually see, again, just another testament to how the one gym trick is basically gone. Still sitting at around 148 or 149,000, but we'll go back in anyway. Try one more time. Since this base right now is is so much easier and more accommodating than the design that they just had. This is a good thing. You know, it's somewhat difficult, and I mean, I'm on the receiving end of this as much as I'm on, you know, the end that I'm currently on now, which is anytime your base is hit really often, like this, by a single individual or several individuals, it's essentially sending you a message. And the message is that your base design is lacking, is inadequate somehow, and it could definitely be improved. So, a little bit of tough love maybe, but it's ultimately it can be beneficial for the player because, again, it's teaching them that it's prompting them to adapt, basically. I guess that just sounded like one big rationalization of raiding their base over and over and over again, but that's okay. The game is about battling and raiding and farming, and that is really what the game is all about. It is, at its core, it is a PvP game, and sometimes it's easy to forget that, you know, and the community in Royal Revolt 2 kind of has, you know, everybody pretty much has an idea or like an ethic down, basically, of what is good sportsmanship and what is kind of unsportsmanlike conduct or behavior. So, calling my troops up here. Try to take care of this tower. That tower will go down with that Blade Storm. It leaves the troops with one tower left, and we have about 38 seconds. So I'm hoping I'll call them again here in just a second when this pops up. There it is. Go again. Back off a little bit so that that Blade Storm doesn't completely take down the gate. Okay, and the Pyromancers should be able to take that out without any problem. Although we'll just go ahead and do it here. And there we go. And now we'll just take this out. Okay. And that gave us a full victory that time. Okay. So we'll go back in here. Alright. Go back in here real quickly and just a couple of concluding comments on Mischreiber's base itself. We're doing this a little bit backwards. We did 2 raids, and now we'll just do some of the so a little bit of analysis on the base. And always gives you a unique perspective, seeing the raid first and then the analysis second. So, all right, so we basically have here what we have is a more or less an archetypical or a standard paperclip type base. We have a long initial path that goes up. You can see the 3 blockades there, and there's no way to be attacked across a parallel path right there, which definitely works to the benefit of the raider. You just have 2 towers to deal with on the left side, a tower on the right side, and what I like to do is not use a Blade Storm right out of the gate there because the blockades are spaced out such that you can get 2 of them down with 1 Blade Storm, but not all 3, and so you end up without a Blade Storm and stuck behind a max level blockade, which ends up consuming a good bit of time bringing that down. Because the 2 towers on the left side and then the tower in the upper right around the choke point up there, will also burn up a sonic blast as well. And so you can get into a predicament where your sequencing gets off, and you know, when you raid a base over and over again, especially if the design is left the same or an old design returns, you get the sequencing down and kind of the optimal way to use your spells to maximize your efficiency working through the base, so you really don't have a huge time crunch. So anyway, on the spacing out those blockades, I like to bring out 1 cannon to take down that initial blockade, as well as just meleeing it, and that way I don't have to use a sonic blast or a Blade Storm. Then use the Blade Storm on the second two, the second and the third blockade to bring those down. Then finally a Sonic Blast on the tower in the upper right there, right by the choke point. The tower that's across from the choke point is a Firebolt tower, pretty standard setup there. So once I'm up and through around this first, big 180-degree turn and down into the clip portion of the base, and that ensures that everything's kind of cleared out as far as there's two towers on the left on the initial part of the path. I will spawn 3 or 4, maybe 5 cannons to try to take down that Firebolt tower that's at the choke point to allow the majority of my raiding party to get out and through the base. So all of the blockades are spaced out really well. There's really only one opportunity to take out a blockade due to a parallel path, and that's the blockade that's at the top of that's on the parallel path. It's just next to the choke point there. And so that's actually a pivotal one to take out or to weaken substantially, because if there's any difficult aspect of this base, it's in kind of the top, the parallel path portion, coming up to the choke point right before you turn up to go into the castle gate. That's the part where maybe your health gets a little bit low, and the DPS that's being dealt out by all the Firebolt towers gets to be a little much. Again, this is a relatively easy base design, especially for Mischreiber, but it is helpful to take out that blockade in order to provide kind of some safe passage and a straight conduit up to the castle gate itself. Probably the most difficult DPS portion of the base is in the paperclip at the bottom of the paperclip itself, and then along the left margin. You'll notice I think there's 3 or 4 Firebolt towers over there. And Mischreiber's MO, basically, pretty much in all of their base designs, is it's always built out to the left side, never to the right, and it's always the left margin, so it's the far left side of the base that ends up being the most difficult aspect of the base. So it's not the beginning of the base, it's not the end of the base that's the most difficult typically, it's the middle portion of the base, which is way out to the left side, which is always the most difficult. So if you imagine the difficulty of their base, it's you start out to kind of just imagine like a basic graph of it. You start out at the bottom, you climb up a pretty steep hill, you get to the top, the kind of the zenith there, and then you roll back downhill into the castle gate itself. So it's always good to again, that's another aspect of sequencing and just learning how to meter or pace yourself as you go through a base, is to learn where the DPS is concentrated most. So I know to kind of regroup, get fully healed, get my cooldowns back up on my Blade Storm and my Sonic Blast, ideally back up to maximum or near enough before I go into the bottom of the paperclip and then the left side in this base design, because I know that I'll need my heal and I'll need my Sonic Blast and my Blade Storm. They're more important there than in any other segment of the base in terms of staying alive and saving on time. So again, that's a little bit of a little more advanced tactic, and it definitely takes multiple runs of a base to learn it well. But a lot of the highest level bases, the design stays mostly the same. Mr. UAE is a great example of a base that hasn't changed in a few weeks. Stateless Body is a great example of a base design that I don't think has changed in a couple of months. And so there's been, a tower here and there has been changed up, but the actual layout is the same, and most of the towers are in the exact same spot that they've been in for weeks on end. And so once you learn that sequencing and you get it down, if you run it so many times, it almost becomes like muscle memory, and unless you do something horribly wrong and you just have an off raid, it becomes really difficult to screw up and completely botch a raid entirely. So that's it for Mischreiber. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that and caught some insight as to how to go into that base. If you're looking to raid Mischreiber, this isn't an open invitation, but right now is a good example of a relatively easy base design that they have out there. And judging by their typical behavior with how they design and redesign their base, it won't be around long, so you might want to strike while you have the chance. If you have any questions or comments on this, you can definitely let me know out on YouTube, or this video will be posted on Facebook, and you can contact me there as well. Thanks for watching.